Hello, good evening, everyone. Hi, how are you? I'm Mike Wendt. I'm the programming director here, and I'm just on behalf of Woodland Pattern, want to say how thrilled we are to welcome Janet Jennerjohn and Michele Kotler for this reading in celebration of Janet's chapbook, The Moment Before. Beautifully made by Chuck Stapleton, who laid out and printed and sewed, and then this wonderfully letterpress printed cover by Jordan Dunn of Oxeye Press. So thanks Chuck, and thanks Jordan, and thanks Holly for sewing today. It takes a village. But yeah, this is absolutely lovely, of course, available at the front, so get yours while you can. And maybe a couple extra as gifts. I think that's, I don't have to announce any more events, I guess, because we're about at the end of the run of events here in this space before we move to another building, so we'll be closed for a bit in not too long a time in July. I guess one thing, there is an open mic tomorrow night, so bring your own poems, 7 p.m. right here tomorrow. But what a run, and what a way to end with so many dear friends, including Brenda Cardenas and Mauricio Guevara, who will provide introductions. So I just get to sit and coast tonight. So I'm going to welcome first Brenda. Brenda, thank you so much for being here. Welcome.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. Oh, it's so great to see the room full. It's always wonderful to see Woodland Pattern filled with people. I can't tell you how happy I am about tonight. Two of my three best friends in the whole world are reading tonight together. And the other one is my cousin, okay? She's not here, but she lives about an hour away. But to have Michele Kotler and Janet Jennerjohn here sharing the stage means the world to me. I've known Janet probably since we were in grade school, but we became besties sophomore year in college. For us, that was a long time ago. I mean, I'm 64 now, so we've been dear friends for like 45 years. And Michele, I met in 1993, the beginning of graduate school, and we're still tight as can be, so I'm just thrilled. I can't wait to hear them. But I'm going to introduce Michele to you because a lot of you know Janet, but probably not a lot of you know Michele. Michele Kotler is the founding director of the Community Word Project, an arts and educational organization in New York City that trains and places artists and writers into historically under-resourced schools, libraries, and community centers. She is also co-founder with Marion Wren, Robin Riegler, and yours truly, of the Matrix Collective, a women's generative writing group that began in the pandemic and has met every week, every single Friday since then. We write together. It's a generative group. It's really Michele who began it because she called me and she said, hey, do you want to do this thing? And I happened to be on sabbatical that year, or I probably would have said, no, I have too much work. But thank goodness I was on sabbatical and said yes. And it grew from there, and I invited Janet to be part of it. Michele Kotler knows everybody in the world, so she invited a lot of women. And we write together, and so many of, I think, some of the poems you'll hear tonight began there in the Matrix. Michele's poems have been published in American Poetry Review, SWWIM Everyday, Painted Bride Quarterly, Spinning Jenny, and Washington Square Review. She is at work on a full-length collection of poems titled Look Alive. She is so dear to me, probably the only person in the world that we could almost run into a semi and just keep on talking. I mean, We were talking, we're on the freeway, there's construction, lots of construction. And I'm driving and I'm kind of trying to follow the cones or whatever. And all of a sudden, I'm on the wrong side and there's a semi coming at us. And I can't get back over because the cones, and I was able to get back over just in time. And we went, oh, wow, look what just happened. And then we just kept talking. So this is Michele Kotler. I love you dearly. Come on up.
It is, and can you guys hear me okay? I'm going to go like this because I just want to take a moment, and if we could just shine our love and our light to this beautiful woman right here. Because that's why we're here, right? So true story that Brenda was telling about the semi. The one thing that she did miss out, I was like, Brenda, is that a truck coming at us? And she said, no, I swear. She said, yes. And that's when she swerved. Because I was like, that is so odd that that's coming right at us. And we were going to, and that's when I got to meet Mo and Janet. And so we came into their house, and they're like, how was the trip? I'm like, the craziest thing happened. And you know how sometimes you don't realize what something is until you say it to someone else, and the expression on their face, they're like, what? I'm like, oh, maybe that was bigger than we realized. Anyway, it's those moments that keep us stitched together in a beautiful way. So tonight is an honor because when Janet asked me to do this, I got very emotional because Janet and I, as you know, I've met her right after almost losing our lives, and then we became friends through Brenda, and then we developed our own friendship. And what made it really special was Janet and I were the two women in the group that didn't have books out, that we were the ones that were basically getting back on that bicycle, right? That riding bicycle. And we developed our grown voices together through this collective. So all of the poems I'm gonna read tonight were written with Janet and Brenda in the Matrix, and I believe the book that the moment before. So all of these poems came from this kind of magical generative space. And as much as you want to complain about Zoom, I will tell you this is the one thing that Zoom gave us, and it really works. So here we go. And my goal is to not cry through this reading. The devil is up to something. How swelling can eat balance. How time can swallow you whole. Every bone, every finger, every map of vein, how an atlas can lose you, how we are bound like hand-sewn pages into a single spine, how we repeat ourselves like cells, how the nucleus is a boss, how remission is uncaged light, how glitter can go everywhere, how I want to travel like glitter. How a lengthy kiss is her own wheelie riding an avenue, how underwater I feel how beautiful it is beneath the surface. How is it my mother has been gone for this long, and I still surrender to her voice, how I surrender to windows, especially when I have to make decisions. How much fuchsia can live in one living thing? How can I bridge the dead? How can I unlock the color ruby and drink her value? How fast can any of us run? We will all need to run fast one day. And the lady sitting next to me on a crowded subway car, so underground, way beneath the buried. The lady watches a video on her phone, and I can see the caption, "The devil is up to something." I want to tell her, there are better fears than that. Wait till you see what is missing on my body. I love the good days, when I am braver than you think. I look at how the rest of my body has grown into what is gone, or grown around what was cut, and now spends the rest of her scar life learning how to transcend being an incision. The loving surgeon who cut out 3/8 of my left breast was so proud that there was no incision scar. She blended her stitches along the circular route of my nipple. 20 years later, my body holds the indentation of what was once a small breast and is now like a dip or a not-so-deep crater on the planet of this petite and kind body that forgives and forgives any scalpel, because who of us, when given the chance to heal, would turn it down? Painting with my ex during a genocide. My daughter's room is now opal. My ex and I don't work well together. Every time I bury this fact like a piece of history that no one wants to remember, it comes curdled to the hot surface, and who wants to drink that? The last time I painted with a man, it was my father. Before he mellowed, this is how the family calls him, his mania was a thief in a bank with no security cameras on. His mania braided my childhood and was a silhouette of hours and days seamed into a stitch so tight it was mistaken for an impossible knot. Painting with my mania dad was the opposite of pristine. He would put me on his shoulders, how he instantly replaced a ladder with himself, and that is how I learned how to paint a ceiling. How the paint didn't drip into my eyes is its own answered prayer before I even knew the word for pray. A year after the first paint job, I was thrown into religious school. At 5, I learned how to pronounce the word Holocaust. I can't forget the pictures of emaciated, naked bodies stacked like the day-old baked goods, the stories that Miss Badanowski asked us to memorize. First, you are forced to dig your grave. Then you were shot into it, or could it be the special shower where the gas came out and there was never water? At 5, I became suspicious of washing, of digging. There was no nuance, no translation. My father made it very clear. Germans did this, as if every German was the shooter, was the person turning on the pretend water. I knew not to not believe. I learned how big 6 million was. I learned how to eat history without chewing. I still had my baby teeth. I learned how to swallow hate because I was 5 and couldn't separate details from details, history from history. I still have to practice hearing someone speak German and not want to run away fast. My daughter's room is opal. My ex painted the ceiling. We spoke genocide as if it were its own coat. And how could we not? So all of these poems, the way that it works with the matrix is that I took something that I created for the classroom, and it's something that we call the matrix because I was working with 4th grade boys and they were obsessed with science fiction, and the matrix was out, and I figured if I put a name on it they liked, I could, it was a little, I had an upper hand. I was a little older than them. I was like, I know how to do this. And so we created, I just literally drew a box and made it into grids. And what we do in the group every week is we generate group vocabulary. We read a poem together, and then from that poem and from just our week and our lives, we populate each grid with one word. And we usually get like 70 words from all of us. And then we turn off our mics and our cameras, and we use that collective vocabulary and prompts that we've made up to challenge each other, and we write. And so we're writing with each other's words, and what happens is, that my favorite part is seeing how the words that we put forward then get integrated into each other's poems, and they're almost like interconnected because of that shared language. And so try and listen and see maybe where you hear wordplay that is a little different, and that's the matrix working. Dear Bruise, this sky is not for sale, nor is the unwound prayer or the undone or the raw turquoise of a bruise in full bloom, nor the moon no matter how bright, nor the music singed into your memory like a hole and an ocean. All at once, this plunge into the tenderness of this blurred time, this unwound prayer, this reel of bruise, this caught, pinched skin, this I don't believe this. What don't you believe? This tender diamond of a night is not for sale, nor is this spilled spell, nor is this warning that we will all explode without the permission to be one. Honey. I remember summer and running into the house before the long day's light took off to open the fridge and grab the bright yellow pitcher filled with iced tea to pour myself glass after glass. I remember thirst, the kind that blooms in your throat from playing on the street until someone yelled, "Car!" The sooner or later thirst of patterns, the ones that carry us, that we hang onto and swing and clutch, the patterns that become our second language. I can't remember when I first thought that if I called someone honey, I would sound older. Honey, the distraction of being undone hits us all sooner or later. Honey, we all get thirsty, and I hope there will be something quenching in a pitcher waiting for you. It's a true story. You probably don't notice how that I'm petite. You probably think I'm much taller. But I was always trying to look a little bit older or sound older. And I was like, I'm just going to call people honey. And kind of works. Inadequate. When a word in your first and only language, say inadequate, always looks misspelled, is that like someone else's less than good behavior? Free hand drawing your attention because that is your gravity's weak spot too? Or is it missing the dead more on certain days than others? Once upon a time, none of us felt inadequate. The more I write the word, the less it appears right. And still, like so many of the days before, I am a forest of inadequate. My veins second-guess my blood. I lose my breath so quickly. And watching the news is witnessing, and scratching what itches makes it worse, as in the news scratching the surface, making the whistle of one motherless child to another crunch the sky as it tries to take in all the innocent, new bodies. I am a sky of inadequate, and I feel misspelled. I have stopped singing to myself. I miss my mother, her parliament of wisdom. As summer begins to simmer, I swear I hear her in the scent of the lilacs. She is singing off-key. She is keying her voice into the sky. She is unhiving the hives that are my shot nerves. She catches my breath with her own. Why do I love forever? My mother lost her eye and half the roof of her mouth because cancer loved her face so much. I loved her so much that it didn't matter what cancer ate. If luxury's love makes time less jagged, then it makes sense that after my mother passed, I still keep the prosthesis of her eye in my dresser drawer. I remember the first time I went to the eye artist with her, and the light was as pure as a beginning. And the woman stared into my mother's only eye as if it were an answer to an exquisite question. She started painting each garden of brown until she made my mother's eye appear on paper so real that it could see. It was before computers, and her hand was better, more tender than a surgeon's. I wish I could remember her name. She was the kind that was the opposite of broken. She made us see more than before. She was every necessary color and line. Her hand gave my mother's pretend sight. Her drawing recipe'd the plastic eye that forever will stay open, saying to the world, I see you. I chose to fight. I chose to stay alive and witness. How are you guys doing? Doing okay? Okay. I know it's like, we gotta lift it up a little bit. This is happy. I know some of this is not so happy, but we're happy, and we're happy to be here, and you. This is worse than long division. It's permanent. See, I know I'm with my people. It is hardened concrete and no chance left to write your name or even initials. It is the death after the deathbed. It is nowhere to lie down. It is the soil frozen, ground unable to open. It is a lost pardon, a glitch that won't ever stop glitching. And still you need to wake up, make breakfast for your daughter. Stay here for a minute. Let's undrown our country's imagination. Let's pretend we are each other's paradise, each other's permission, to tongue, to languish, to unlanguish. Let's rewind, let's unwind. Let's unexplode. Let's be each other's interior so our organs aren't lonely or harvested or shutting down. Let's call off the dogs. Let's call each other's numbers. Let's break evenly so we split what we have. Let me slide my fingers through your truths and untangle the knots that division seeds and grows. Isn't it something when the sun's DNA rises each morning and you get to wake up and use your hands, your lips, your lungs? If this is your time, then you know how the light from the yurtsite candle that burns all night can be company, can sing to you, can be your radio, can be time kneeling and asking for forgiveness. So, like these wonderful women, I get to fundraise for the organization that I love and that I gave birth to and that I care deeply about. And the thing about fundraising is there's no fun in fundraising. It's like so inappropriate that it starts with those three letters. But I think about it a lot, and I think about money a lot, but not money in a capital way, but money in a let's clean it way. So, and this is, and I learned this from my dad, who inevitably taught me fundraising without realizing it. Raise your hand if you want to be more generous. Growing up, my mother would say, the rich don't get rich from being generous, and rich or poor, it's sure nice to have money. Raise your hand if you want to be more generous. Growing up, my father treated a 14-hour workday like a knot he needed to untie. It was unclear what was more tired, his yellow checker cab that would shake after he pulled the key from the ignition after countless miles of messed up streets, or him. The night my 5-year-old's voice asked, why was he so tired if all he did was sit down all day, was not a good night for anyone. The cavity of my sense or nonsense is its own addict of, I won't ask that question again. Growing up, it was my job to count every inch of money, including every circle of coin. Cab driving was all cash then. My dad would give me a mattress of bills. My little hands would steady each president in the same direction and make piles of 1s, 5s, 10s, 20s, and every once in a while there would be a juicy lone 50. I would add each stack and form tricky buildings of coins to get to a total that he already knew. After, he would ask me to show him my hands, and they would be dirty. He would say each night, money is dirty. It's what you do with it that makes it clean. Ain't it the truth, right? Not turning back. When I was 9 and scrawny, all ponytail swinging down my back, my dad, who lived to 97, was younger too. He had a green 10-speed and I had a pale pink no-speed. On a morning where spring was everywhere and my mother was working on college, my dad, all 10-speed, said, when we make it to Manhattan, we will get an ice cream any size you want. And we lived in Queens, and Manhattan was 15 miles away. And my legs were matchsticks. As we started out, he said, keep up because I'm not turning back. And there we were, all 16 lanes of Queens Boulevard, nicknamed the Boulevard of Death, and it was the 70s, and helmets weren't rituals yet, and bike lanes were unimagined. As flying cars, it was uphill too, and I remember pedaling and praying and praying and pedaling, and hating my father who had better equipment, and I knew he meant it when he wouldn't turn back, so I had no choice but to sanctify my legs that kept pushing, and every horn that slapped my fate was a tribute to my staying alive and upright, and when I lost sight of my father, I remembered that there were no turns. It was just straight ahead until the bridge, and somewhere in my 9-year-old Declaration of Independence, I made my fear into smoke and kept riding. And that ice cream must have tasted like paradise, because isn't paradise when you are no longer afraid of being thrown or losing your balance or being lost? My dad really was crazy. I'm not. But you know what? Here I am. And there's nothing like crazy people to give you damn good stories. Don't even think about it. I grew up unafraid of heights. I had no choice with my father. I wish you were here. He would climb over a 10-foot fence and expect me to follow, and he wouldn't look back. He did when he was older. And I was all nerves, and he was all nerve. And I was his little girl, and he wanted me to know how to get away if I was chased. He wanted me to see a fence as something to get over versus something keeping me out. Or was it that he didn't agree with each other's boundaries, or he was unshaken by time, or God, or light? Don't even think about the weeks he fought death and slid back into his first language. To audience a man, a father, become a lyric, to a new song, to a new home, where you couldn't fit into the door, let alone see into the windows. Don't even cry, because then I will give you something to really cry about. That was my father too. Don't even uneven me. I am all swallows, all rise, all chills, no measure, all open, all eyes, all how does it feel, all missing, all chain link fence on Utopia Parkway, wishing back a time when catching up meant velvet, equaled an ice cream, mint chip, because I climbed over what couldn't stop me. So my dad, he was with me until about 1.5 years ago. And I got to have him till I was 97, which is really blessed. You can't complain at that point. Like, it's like, you know, it felt complete. And we really got to enjoy each other. And when he turned 90, he became very sweet. It was the weirdest thing. So, you know that expression, like, you know, you wait for people to change? Well, he really did change, and it was really special. And so a lot of these poems are for him because it's what's been in my recent scope. Watching my dad die is a different intimacy. Scratch watching, witnessing. For the life of me, what are you seeing, cradling, seeding? Even now, you teach me how to love life, that you can't let go. Even now, in between worlds, your grip, your hold. You're holding my hand almost too tight, as if we were crossing an avenue with lanes in both directions. In between worlds, your first language is reborn. You are suddenly your mother tongue, each word like sand, each sentence a castle with no door. Why I can't understand frustrates you. You have forgotten. You are fall risk. I am lens. You are forever, as spirit, as cab driver. And the passengers will be different in this new addict of dimension, this looking for fares in the in-between worlds. Who is hailing you? Who is treating you as if you are lesser? Will you turn around all maniacal smile and tell them it's your first day of driving, as you jerk the brakes, as you turn the corner too quickly? Are you afraid, Dad, or just not ready? The doctors surround you. They call you unpredictable. Your eyes are glazed like candy. The bright is gone. You are apprentice, cusp. I am harness. You are a magician. I am wand. You are millions. I am blur. True story, he drove a New York City cab for my whole life, for 35, but I mean, my life is longer than 35. He drove for 35 years, and it was in the 70s and 80s and 90s in New York City, and the 70s was not a great time in New York City, and he always spoke about how you should treat everyone as if they will save your life, because you never know, right? And then he would tell stories of how people spoke down to him because he was the driver. Do this, go there, like always giving. So he said that when people did that, he would jerk on the brakes and tell them it was his first day driving. We all have our ways of dealing with power. The poem is in the hospital, room where a father has died. The poem knows that hands can speak even after the breath has left. The poem lifts the white sheet. There are the hands. The thumbs push through the pointer and middle finger. The poem asks a question nobody wants to ask. Was the father resisting leaving for good? The clenching of the fingers makes the poem think the passing wasn't easy. Is any transition easy? Does it matter? The poem sits with the body because tradition says not to leave the dead alone. The poem keeps wanting to close the eyes of the father and the mouth. The poem asks if it is a poem or a photograph. The poem collects shadows because night has done it again and has begun drenching the sky with deep blues. The poem decides she is a daughter and a photograph at the same time. The poem keeps the dead company. The poem keeps what is alive, alive. The poem has borders that are unmarked. The dead teaches the poem liberation. The poem teaches the dead nothing. Last poem. And before I read it, I just want to say again, what an honor. Thank you, Janet, and thank you for this beautiful book that comes into the world. And chapbook, I don't care. It's a book. It's a friggin' book, right? And it's beautiful. And the fact that it's sewn, that is so you, Janet. That is so you. That its spine is that careful, that makes a lot of sense. So I'm so excited to hear you read. So I'm going to do this last poem. I'm going to turn it over to Mo. Who wants unfinished business? The Dutch like to say acting normal is crazy enough. What is luxury anyway? If you were to pour me, I would come slow and thick, like a forever accent no matter how long you have lived in this adopted tongue. It is always second, river me through this divorce. I never wanted to split. My overbite is coming back. My teeth, unbraced for decades, are moving where they were born, and I feel like my teeth. Who's with me? Who will be my sugar skull as I'm unbraced and pushing through? I can't wait to shimmy again, to sequin time and light and crush this butcher grief that is its own cut of bone and meat and red. I can't wait to undress this tightly pulled and pinched grief that is its own corset, its own sheet of time. Who wants unfinished business anyway? Let's ditch the vacuous and find new sugar. Let's be the accelerator and pollinator all at once. Let's unblank and reboss, unhem and untoss, unpinch and unloss, unbrick and uncrumble, unnumb and unsung. Did I already ask who's with me? Did I already say new song?
I've been thinking about this for a little while, and I keep thinking of my favorite movie since I was a little kid, The Wizard of Oz. And this is like the end, where all your friends come back. And when all your friends gather, we realize, what a lucky life we're having. I have the privilege of waking up every morning with Janet Jennerjohn, whose poems you'll hear and see tonight. We've made a home together for 36 years, whether it was on Arlington Place off Brady Street, or in Indiana, Pennsylvania, or Cholula, Mexico, or Bogotá, or Barranquilla, Colombia, or Austin Street in Bayview. Our mornings have remained the same in some ways. You'll smell coffee, very good coffee, being prepared in the kitchen. If you're lucky, you may hear Janet singing. She's musical and sings with joy. You may see her in front of the large picture window, photographing a female cardinal atop the stacked firewood on the deck. She may be bent over, talking to Django, our not-so-young puppy, removing a piece of popcorn that I dropped on him the night before. And if you're visiting us on a Friday, you'll see Janet and Django heading to the basement. Be patient. They'll return in a couple hours after the Matrix does its weekly magic in the world, creating, stop it, you people, creating new poems and a genuine community filled with love and care. I'm guessing many of you will enjoy the selection of recent poems that made it into the beautiful letterpress chapbook that Chuck Stebleton and Jordan Dunn, with support from Woodland Pattern, helped her to produce. You may even find that you're the subject of a poem. More likely, though, you'll connect to a line or image or memory because, in the words of William Stafford, we are all gestures that the world makes. Poem comes to us as a gift from the ancient Greek word poema, literally meaning a thing made or created. For Janet, a poem is not only a kind of spoken song story, it is anything well made or created. It is the book we celebrate tonight, yes, but it is also this chapel of books at 720 East Locust Street. It is the live streaming transmitted to our friends around the world, whether we have met them yet or not. It is spring in the world and the earth thirsty to feed us all. It is the memory of our ancestors. It is our children. This experience of gathering tonight, too, is a kind of poem. Go ahead, breathe, because it's now the moment before.
Hello, Milwaukee! I like that 70s show. Well, if I'm going to mention television and Milwaukee, I have to let you know that Michelle calls Brenda and I Laverne and Shirley. Well, I'm going to get a little recombobulated here. I want to put on a timer so I don't bore you all to death. And where is it? I wanted to show you something. Not too many things here. Oh, well. What I was going to show you was this. This is me 40 years ago. This was my first chapbook, so I think it's about time that there's a second one. And, of course, I just can't say again,
A number of people have already mentioned it, but this never would have happened without my dearest friend Brenda approaching Laura and Jenny and asking if this was okay to make a chapbook for me, and then to have Chuck and Jordan and everybody here who helped make this most beautiful book. I am so proud, and I'm so thankful to all of you for doing that. Thank you. So let's start with the moment before. It isn't always the hand that wants to open the trunk. The hand knows better. The hand has been slapped and burned, but also caressed. So the hand is sometimes ambivalent, opens the lid slowly, oscillates momentarily before flinging open the window of memory. First to emerge is the savanna and its tiny mountains, refugees from days past. Then there is a ladder, clandestine in its spooling, but inviting you to climb down. If you acquiesce, you will find the wonder of the circus, hydrangeas large as clouds, camels imitating the mountains, and Don Quixote wandering amid windmills, placeholders for the apocalypse. The hand, of course, will question this decision to peek at the past. It will be surprised to not see the elephant in the room, to not see the jugglers, nor tightrope walkers, no ringmaster, no dancers on horseback. Just a man walking toward a life, dropping breadcrumbs as he fades away. So someone asked me what the moment before means. And all of this, as Michele mentioned, and Mo, I wrote all of these poems. They started in our group. And that day, something made me think about a painting we have in our living room of the savannah of Bogota. So outside of Bogota, in Colombia, there is a savannah. And it's painting of grassland and the foothills of the mountains. And I don't know what made me think of what if there was someone there looking back at their life. And so for me, the poem is about what do we do when we have that opportunity to look back? Do we take it? Is it like a Pandora's box? Do we wonder what it will show us? And in the poem, the speaker doesn't see what the hand doesn't see what it expects, right? Just life going on. And so for me, that's what the book is. They're little glimpses of my life. And so that's why I call it The Moment Before and started with that book. And to address the elephant in the room, I'm pretty sure everybody who is here knows about my diagnosis, so I won't talk about it in detail, but I do want to, for those of you who may not know, in November of 2024, I was diagnosed with bile duct cancer. There's no good cancer, but this really isn't a good one. But I'm here, and I've got medication that is keeping me going. And last week I had my 3-month MRI and CT scans, and I got good news. I have 2 tumors on my liver, and they are shrinking a bit, and there's no new growth. So that's, yay! So the next poem is called Loop, and it refers to a time when I think it was around 5, and I almost drowned. And then it also the last stanza is referencing when my mom and I took a walk in Peninsula State Park and got lost because I couldn't read the map properly. Loop. with lines from Martha Solano's When I Learned Catastrophically. At age 5, I became more and less of who I'd become, floating on the surface of Cycle Lake, calm waters where loon calls greeted the early purple glow, and fish created rows of breath at dusk. On that bright morning, I gripped the board that kept me buoyant. I didn't know that letting go would save me, hadn't felt the uptick in the wind, hadn't heard my mother's footsteps walking away, didn't know that life below the surface required a different set of skills. Years later, I remember the fear of getting lost if I left the main trail, the map only viable in one dimension. We walked for hours, my mother and I, not quite in circles, but in quiet, listening hard for each other's breaths, knowing that one day the circles on the lake would return, one of us standing on the shore, waiting for the other to come back. Those of you who know me know that my mother was a very important part of my life. So the next poem is going to have some pictures, okay? So now I'm going to leave it up to you to decide whether you want to look at the pictures or not, because I had this grand scheme that for 2 of these poems, I had photographs in mind. And I spent the whole day yesterday looking for the photographs. And of course, I couldn't find the ones I wanted. So this next poem is about our family farm, and I couldn't find the pictures that I wanted to coincide with each stanza. So if you don't want to, if you just want to listen, maybe close your eyes, but if you don't mind seeing pictures that kind of go with the words, then go ahead and look. You can always see them later. Okay. A trip to the farm. Our family farm wasn't a farm. We didn't grow crops like corn for the cows. The soil was rock-pocked, pitted, poised to fight against the plow. So shrubs and field grass and brambles grew where they could. Water mostly inhabited the land just below the surface. It saturated the ruts our tires succumbed to. We often walked the half-mile driveway. The farm was where my brothers and Dad went to hunt. In November, deer hung from the porch rafters, offering their hard-earned flesh. In winter, we brought a sled to drag our belongings above the snow. In spring, marshy wildflowers grew among the transplanted pines that grew more rapidly than I. It wasn't long before the seedlings surpassed the house. Summer brought Daisy Dukes, hot afternoons on a rollaway bed, drugstore romances suitable for a girl of 13. Come fall, the poplars shimmied golden. The needles of the tamaracks rusted. We dreamed of surprising the northern lights. Today, when I look down the long driveway, I see horses where trees used to block my view. Their hoofs occasionally resonate upon a rock. They eat hay left in piles by their owner. To see them, I must ascend a little hill, return to the farmhouse now buried, that once stood among the pines. And that was for the Jennerjohns, or anybody else who dared to go there. That's really what it looked like. I mean, that's where we stayed. Next. So that's a little bit of my early life. The farm was extremely important to me, and I think to my brothers. Must have been because my eldest brother, as soon as he retired, moved up there. and I want to thank my sister-in-law for being here with me today because they're going to Alaska tomorrow. So really great that she came tonight. And my other brother who's here also bought property up there. So I kind of felt like I grew up half city, half country because of the farm. Now I'm going to kind of jump to a poem about family. This was the other one that I had all these great images in my head. I made this PowerPoint, and then last night I decided, no, I'm going to show you some pictures, but at the end. This is called Family Album. This was the first moment you loved me. Your tiny arms open wide as naked trees in winter. Tears drying on your face, slowly evaporating memories of mother, littered streets, tiny fires burning on the mountainside. This was the day you realized no was not enough. Your cousin's language loud and annoying, her greed overwhelming, yet all you could say was no. This was the day I introduced you to Bruce, my Nancy Sinatra nightgown, paisley as fuck, twirling its polyester threads into a cyclone. Us in the middle of spin, around and around. Baby, we were born to run. This was the day you met your brother, clip-on corbata in place, straight as the white lines on the runway. Then we were 4, king, queen, jack, ace, climbing the stairs of our little house, rented and warm, nesting beneath the covers, tulips buried in snow, waiting for spring. If you could go back in time, would you search for them? Your 2-year-old frame stumbling into every shanty, peering beneath the tar paper, hoping that one of the faces looking back at you was yours. Teenager, brown, lean, armored, returning to your birthplace. Lean over the city, stretch into the mounting clouds, fly. So these are my 2 boys, Diego. These are that's the day that's when they handed Andres to us. The poor little guy was not sure, taken away from his foster mom. And I couldn't find the exact picture of Diego. That's what I was really mad about. But this was a couple days later. He was pretty happy. Diego was a little bit older, and he was also, as long as we gave him food and Coke, Coca-Cola, he was happy. His first words were "ma, mas" in Spanish. He wanted more. So that was for my boys, Diego and Andres. So now I'm going to hop. That's him with his tie, his clip-on tie. That's at the airport in Pittsburgh where they first met each other. And then that's them. In 2009, we went back and they got to see Bogota. That's Bogota in the background. Oh, this has nothing to do with the poem, but this is to remind my children how much I've done for them. That's me waterfall rappelling in Costa Rica because I was dumb enough to let them choose what activity they wanted to do. I made it. I was pretty bruised by the time I got down, but there's going to be, we're not quite there yet. The next one has no picture. So this poem is called Connection. So you can look at that if you want to, but that's not related to the poem. That's coming up. I retired, it was 2022, right? You retired? And then I got very nervous about being retired, and I decided to go across the street to the K-8 school that was my junior high, my brother's junior high, my son's middle school, and then became K-8, and it's now Milwaukee Parkside School for the Arts. And I did my first 2.5 years of retirement there, and if it wasn't for my diagnosis, I'd still be there, but I just don't know that it's smart for me to be around a lot of little kids at the moment. Forget him for now. Okay, there. This is called Connection for my friends at Parkside. It's day 2, and this retiree job has nothing to do with being retired, but everything to do with being tired. The office hands me a radio. Go out and watch for buses. I stand on Howell Avenue as if on the bow of a ship in anticipation of a sighting. What will I see first? A plume of mist? A dorsal fin? A fluke? The little yellow bus arrives without majesty. When the door opens, 2 smiling children exit and head for the school. They know the route, the trajectory of the sun. But one remains, is coaxed out by the kind driver. Come on, honey, let's start your day. He takes a timid step forward, and then, as if being inside out, stumbles from his ardent seat and into my arms. If he were not a little one with autism, we would label his embrace inappropriate, aggressive. But his habit is not an annoyance. He has brought sunlight to a heavy morning, sunflowers blooming as he nestles his head into my chest. We travel the many muddled steps to his classroom through quiet halls. Bells ringing, eggplants sighing, persimmons preaching over the radio static of being alive. And that is true. They didn't know what to do with me because the principal wasn't even aware of my job. She said, who are you? What are you here? She said, here, go outside and watch for the buses. Okay. But it truly did make my day. I fell in love with those. I wasn't in the classroom a lot, but there were times when they needed somebody extra in the special ed classes. And I loved being with those children. So now we're here. One thing that happens with Parkside and other schools around the city is that the children can go to the Milwaukee Art Museum, and there's a program called, what is it, Heather? What docents? What? Junior docents. And is it 3rd grade they start? Yeah, they start in 3rd grade, and then by 5th grade, we hope they've learned enough that they have a piece of artwork that they both replicate and have to talk about. And then their families come and they go around the museum and they act as junior docents. And I worked a lot with the kids with that, and I loved that program. And I also love the Milwaukee Art Museum, been a member for years. And this is one of my favorite pieces. When I was a young person, I don't know, I was probably a teen or in my 20s, I was in the art museum, and I walked up to this janitor, and I was going to ask him a question. He didn't answer back. The children gather around him after Dwayne Hanson's Janitor, 1973. The children gather around him so close he might feel their breath. They giggle and point. Don't touch, their teacher exhales. He feels that too. Her breath different though, sour and aged, like his skin so frail, a thin veneer of wax. He wonders what it might feel like to be touched again. His creator's hand, brush, tiny trowel. He remembers each stroke, mottled sockets and joints, a whisper to attach a lash, the tiny screw holding his glasses. The children crowd closer to see. When the teacher turns to admire another work of art, the second grade field trip moves, slips into a new gallery. The solitary work of being returns. The solitary work of being returns slips into a new gallery. The second grade field trip moves to admire another work of art. When the teacher turns, the children crowd closer to see the tiny screw holding his glasses, a whisper attached to a lash, mottled sockets and joints. He remembers each stroke, his creator's hand, brush, tiny trowel. To be touched again, he wonders what it might feel like, a thin veneer of wax, like his skin, so frail. Different though, sour and aged, he feels that too, her breath. Don't touch, the teacher exhales. They giggle and point, so close he might feel their breath. Again. And I don't know if you noticed, but the whole poem went backwards. Palindrome. And I wrote that in 30 minutes in group. Yes. Pretty much, just pretty much the. I gotta get it done. Yeah, I impressed myself with that one. Okay. I spent almost 12 years in Indiana, PA, southwestern Pennsylvania, and that's mining country, coal country. And a few years ago at the Milwaukee Film Festival, Mo and I saw a film about I believe it was a town in West Virginia. It was a beautiful documentary that was mostly visual, not a lot of words, kind of just showing what happens to a mining town when the mines close. So this is for my people in PA. Appalachian Elegy. I record the bones in each grave so that their owners won't return to me, gelatinous or diaphanous, undefined, palms up, waiting, voiceless. When they were in the coal mines bituminous light, smeared like wild grapes trapped between the layers of time, they did not think to count their bones, the ones that might go missing, to count the misplaced knuckles and toes. In the quiet, they stand sometimes inside the gate, along the ledge of blueberries, not knowing whose vines grow around or beneath them, whose stones gather at their feet. Not knowing where the barges dock, nor where the trains uncouple, they listen for the coal carts rattle to quilt them on the wind. So let me see, okay. Let me see how we're doing here. Ooh, okay. Okay. This one is for Susan and John. Russell. It is the season of the second batch of raspberries. Susan says they are the best, sweeter, darker, firmer than those that we devour in the spring. We walk to the patch, a miniature forest of canes just coming into old age. Susan's hair is long, white, thinning silk wisps that take light in the fall air. Behind her, a mountain of milkweed explodes into clouds. 7 years have passed since John left her alone to tend the garden. Her hair and fruit measure the years. On crisp evenings like this one, we don't need words to remind us of legacy. The solar lanterns turn on one by one, some peculiar magic of nature, like the green garden beans hanging on by a thread, not quite yet ready to leave. And then flood, this we have this poem I wrote for an exhibit. It's called Visual Inverse. That is the Plymouth Center for the Arts in Plymouth, Massachusetts. My dear friend Kim Wilde Corbin is the executive director there, and they have a gathering where poets, well, we chose a piece of work that was part of their annual juried art show. And then the poems and the artwork are put together in a book. So that was really nice that I was a part of that last year. And this is the photo I chose and my poem's entitled Flood. Life can turn in an instant. You never know when you will be the tomato in a sack waiting to ripen. The flash flood, a cocktail of ignorance and arrogance. The crow perched upon the red cliffs, lulled by the undercurrent, lore of sorry behind your black eyes. The dog, shepherding in silhouette, waits for the snap of a twig, the swish of a braided grass, the lush silence of a predator. He knows the thread vining him to patience is fragile, a draft that cannot be ignored. Yesterday, I took a new concoction of pills, slept easily, made a crevasse of the mattress. Snow piled upon snow, the glacier I landed on 20 years ago, now a rubble of stone, thick pulque below. A slow reminder to listen for the change in temperature, the sheep's bleating, the moment just before you turn your head. Frozen Blues. Mauricio and I bought a house in Door County in 2016, and it's on Sunset Lane. And because it's on Sunset Lane, in the summertime, everybody wants to come to see the sunset at the end of the lane. But in the wintertime, it's just for us. So, Frozen Blues for Mauricio. Follow the deer tracks in the snow. They will take us to civil twilight. Cars come down this dead end often to witness the sun's rebirth. It's rising somewhere as it sets here. Today at 5:01, tracks will take us to day retreating into the bay. Powder blue, then a questionable shade, turquoise turning into night. This February set doesn't draw gasps. Masked, we pause, watch our warm breath return to air, frozen words over the water. Who would have thought that the deer would have let us here, you and I, at the edge of day, without time to waste? And it. Just we're getting close. But I was very close to both of my parents. My mother appears more in poems that I've written. And when I was close to both my parents, but fathers are sometimes difficult. And I remember friends saying to me once, they said something like, "Is your father dead?" And I said, "No, why?" And he said, "Because you never talk about him. You always say your mother this, your mother that." But this poem I wrote remembering the time that I was living in Pennsylvania when my dad died, and it was really hard. I wasn't there for his last 10 years of his life. And I was working at Penn State Altoona at the time, and it was about an hour and 15-minute drive from our house through the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains, which were beautiful, to my job. And number of days that spring, he died in the fall, but the next spring during that job, when I was driving home, I would feel him touching my cheek. The close, quiet, inhale, exhale. Breathe closely into his scent. Remember the smell of electricity on his body, in his clothes, the factory lingering on his hands. Quiet, inhale. Feel the brush of his hand on your cheek. It is there and it is not. Grasp the steering wheel tighter. Smile. Feel the wind off the water. Quiet. Exhale. Hear the lithe timbre of his voice, such a tender song from his black bear body. Close your eyes. Sing, I love you, a bushel and a peck. Quiet. Inhale. See his grandson through his eyes. Little boy beside him on the bed. Baby curls enveloping his withered fingers. Quiet. Exhale. Remember. Miss the skin, the breath, the muscle, the skeleton. Forget the ghost. Remember the lake, the song, the quiet, the close. And I'm going to end with a poem to one of my favorite singers, John Prine, who unfortunately died in the spring of 2020 because of COVID. To preface this, why it's called Anonymous Skunk. Well, one reason I think John Prine would really dig that title, but also when we do our matrix that Michele talked about, when we're putting our words in, sometimes it might say the person's name, but usually it says anonymous and then some animal. So there's anonymous giraffe, anonymous skunk, anonymous beaver. It's just really weird. Yeah, it's a Google Doc, and we don't know who's who. So somebody was anonymous skunk that day. So anonymous skunk for John Prine. John Prine died in the prime of Act 3, finished an album, toured Europe, loved his wife and kids like no tomorrow, and ate meatloaf once a week at the local diner with a friend. Wrote songs, laughed, saw persimmon in the Nashville sunset. He knew the end was near, but none of us saw it coming. How could we? A new flu from a bat, a wet market, a moist morning exchange somewhere in China, hands brushing hands, breaths shared while bartering. John was happy as a clam. His last show was in Paris. What could go wrong? He highlighted the tree of forgiveness, but left room for paradise and an angel from Montgomery. When he came home, he didn't feel so hot. Breathing was even harder than usual. He was the first of my loves to fall that spring. I cry sometimes when I think of John, but mostly I smile, laugh, and smile again. It's a big old goofy world, after all. It's a big old goofy world. Thank you, sit down. And we're going to end the evening with John Prine. It's a big old goofy world, so feel free to listen, to come and dance, slow dance, to have a bite to eat, buy a book. I will sign it. Ooh, it's late. No, I think she's.
Up in the morning, work like a dog. It's better than sitting like a bump on a log. Mind all your manners, be quiet as a mouse. Someday you'll own a home that's as big as a house. Well, I know a fella, he eats like a horse, knocks his old balls around the old golf course. You ought to see his wife, she's a cute little dish. She smokes like a chimney and drinks like a fish. There's a big old goofy man dancing with a big old goofy girl. Oh, baby, he's a big old goofy world. Now Elvis had a woman with a head like a rock. I wished I had a woman that made my knees knock. She'd sing like an angel, lead like a bird. And if I wrote her song, she'd know every single word. There's a big old goofy man dancing with a big old goofy girl. Ooh, baby, it's a big old goofy world. Kiss a little baby, give the world a smile. If you take an inch, give him back a mile. 'Cause if you lie like a rug and you don't give a damn, you're never gonna be as happy as a clam. So I'm sitting in a hotel, trying to write a song. My head is just as empty as the day is long. Why, it's clear as a bell, I should have gone to school. I'd be wise as an owl instead of stubborn as a mule. And there's a big old goofy man dancing with a big old goofy girl. Ooh, baby, it's a big old